All right, physical science students, we are going to go over the scientific method today. Just a little refresher of what you've probably been learning since elementary school. And we are going to be doing an experiment with this. So make sure that you understand what the terminology is and what the steps are. So this is going to be our introduction, and then we'll go more in depth with lab practices. So here we go. So first of all, to understand science, we have to give it some sort of definition. And science is the study of nature, and that can be done through observation. The first, tools that human beings had to look around and see what's going on was observation. We can also do experimentation, which is where the scientific method comes into play. And we will be doing experiments throughout the year and activities and demonstrations and using models. So those are all parts of science. Let me kind of clean this up a little bit. So there are many areas of science. No, you don't want to work. There it goes. So we're going to have life sciences. So this is more of your zoologies, your biologies, your ecologies, your um, ichthyologies, fish. So anything that's alive. So that's going to be more of something you'll study next year or when you take biology. And that's just, life sciences tend to study living things. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And then there's your physical sciences, and that's the non-living things. So since we're in physical science, we will be focusing on the physical sciences, and we're going to be looking at non-living things. So next year, you'll focus more on things that are alive. And today, or at least this year, we're going to focus on non-living things. So just some types of life sciences so that you're aware. There's biology, and that's the class you will take next year, or your next science that you'll be taking, and that's just the study of life. There's zoology, which is the study of animals, which is why that prefix zoo comes from. There's botany, which is plants, and then a whole bunch of other things. And we won't really need to go too much into that because we are not going to study that this year. And then we have our physical sciences. So this is what we're going to really be hitting this year. And we're going to talk about physics in the first semester, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. There is some math involved in physics, I'm not going to lie. But there's also math involved in chemistry, so you just don't get out of it. But these are our two physical sciences. So physics is like Newton's laws and movement and motion and acceleration and waves and heat and sound and all that. And then chemistry is the periodic table, the atomic elements, atoms, physical and chemical reactions, and those types of things. There's also geology, which we do offer if you want to take that, which is the study of the earth and rocks. Not my cup of tea, but if that's what you're into, then keep on keeping on. Excuse me. And then there's other things like oceanography or there's oceanography, astronomy, and all those. So there are other physical sciences and there are other life sciences. But the ones we're going to focus on mainly this year for you guys is going to be these first two, physics and chemistry. All right, so the scientific method, which I'm sure you've heard about since you started school. We go over it every year. And this is just to give you an introduction of the terminologies and the words that are going to be used. But you do use the scientific method a lot more than you think you do. And it's not always in order. I feel like the scientific method is always presented in like this very linear order and steps that need to be taken. But scientific method is just basically you noticing a problem or noticing something and then trying to find out either how it happened or why it happened or how to fix it. But we'll go with the textbook thing, which is the scientific method. We need to identify the problem. We need to research the problem. We need to come up with a testable way to test the problem. Roll with it. We need to experiment. We need to analyze our data, basically look at our experiment. What is it telling us? And then we need to come to a conclusion, which is basically summarizing all of this good stuff here. Sorry. So make sure you have this in your notebook. It's important. To identify, we're going to select a topic of interest, or because you're in school, a topic that we're talking about. And then you're going to investigate. So research is just kind of background information. So what have people found before? What are some of the terminology? Is there any math that goes with it? What are some past experiments? Those types of things. So you have your previous knowledge and all that. And then we need a hypothesis. So you may have heard it explained as an educated guess, which is kind of okay. I think that's a little elementary. We want to kind of step it up. It's an educated guess, but it also needs to be testable. So it's a possible explanation. And when you deal with a hypothesis, kind of like in the non-science sense, it is like an educated guess, or it is something you kind of have a hunch about, and it is a possible explanation. But when we deal with it in the science community, it has to be something we can test. And these are the two things. It needs to be testable and it needs to be falsifiable. And we'll go through those more throughout the year as you do it. I think the scientific method just becomes more commonplace and makes more sense the more experiments you do. But I do want you to know that a hypothesis does have to be testable and it does have to be falsifiable. And then we have our experiment, which is the fun part of science. This is what you designed to test your hypothesis. And we need to collect data for that. So the whole point of doing an experiment is to collect the data. And then the whole point of the analyzing the experiment is to see what the data is actually telling us. So when you guys did your ball drop experiment real early at the beginning of the year, your experiment was something along the lines of the ball dropping and the ball measuring when the how far the ball bounced back up. So that was your data. And then analyzing your data could be something like, okay, well, the higher we dropped your ball, the higher it bounced back. What could that mean? And that's normally represented by a graph. And understanding how to read a graph is also something we're going to get through this year. I think it's extremely important to know what a graph is telling you and to know if a graph is done correctly. And then you can also look at charts, equations. So does the math make sense? And when we get into like the chemistry portion and a good chunk of the physics portion, there will be times where you could look at a problem and say like, this math doesn't make sense. And that's something that you do need to look at when you're analyzing your data. And then our conclusion. So was your hypothesis proven or disproven? Can you confirm it was correct, or is it just not correct? And either one of these is perfectly okay to get. I don't want you to think that if you get your hypothesis disproven, that your experiment is wrong. If you follow all those steps, your experiment is not wrong. It just means your hypothesis wasn't proven. So you get to go back and try it again and change something else about your experiment. And that's based on your data. So you have to look at your data and see, does it match up with my hypothesis? If I drop the ball at a higher height, then it'll bounce back higher than if I drop it at a lower height. Does that make sense? Does it follow my data? Did I get that data? Can I prove it? Does it match the graph? Those types of things belong in your conclusion. So if your hypothesis is confirmed, you're done. Congratulations. It needs to be able to be recreated by others. So in order to have a good experiment, you need to be able to have it done by multiple people during multiple trials, during multiple times. And if it is consistent, then it's considered a good experiment. And if it's inconsistent, then you need to kind of backpedal a little bit and see what's happening. And that kind of goes with your, if your hypothesis is disproven. And that just means you get to adjust, you get to try again, you get to reform things and think about your problem in a different light. Which is not wrong, it just means you get to try again. All right, so we have our other methods like trial and error. So see if this works. If not, I think trial and error is definitely more real base, like life forms of scientific method. If your phone doesn't charge, you could, see if the power went out the night before, like if your clock on the stove or the microwave is blinking, or it could be that your charger wasn't plugged in all the way, so that would be like a trial. You could be see if it works or not. That would be your error. Accidents is a great way to see if there's any type of methods out there that worked or didn't work. Basic research, looking at peer reviewed sources. I want to emphasize the peer reviewed sources, not just something you see on the internet, but it's got to be backed up by other research as well. And then through these processes, science does adapt, science does change. And that needs to be more welcomed, I think. And a lot of times science improves. So science can change if the data backs it up. If the data doesn't back it up, then it's not really the best science. And that can be done by research, experiments, and of course, looking at the actual math that goes behind it. Science should be able to correct itself. So we have a periodic table, for example, our fossil record. So before the periodic table looked like it does now, it was organized in a different way. I forget exactly how it was organized previously, but now it's organized by atomic number, which is the number of protons. So that was fixed, and that's why it has that weird shape to it now. We have our fossil record. You know, it's always trying to figure out what bone goes where or what timeline did this come from. And as technology improves, our fossil record improves. We'll talk about all the crazy experiments that went wrong with atoms and how they're shaped when we get into our next unit. We have our academic science, and I think this is actually our last slide before I'll stop torturing you. It is our last slide. Okay, cool. So we have our academic science. We conduct research. There's a scientific method, a scientific paper, a good science. Ooh, I really need to click that. But a good scientific paper is long. It's never just a one-page article. It's definitely always longer. The resource section of the paper is normally about 2 to 3 pages. They can be found in scientific journals. They have to be peer-reviewed, and peer-reviewed things can be retracted if better data and science comes out, or if they find something like nefarious with the experiment. So it can be retracted or taken away. And then published. If you're super lucky, you get to be published. And there we go. Okay. So the last little bit, and that just either we can confirm or disprove. We have a scientific conference, so a bunch of nerds get together and see what's going on with it. And then, of course, our textbooks. And if it's in the textbook, it's at least been kind of sort of peer reviewed at some point and published. It doesn't mean that it won't change in the future once better stuff comes out or more accurate stuff comes out, but those are good sources to look at. All right, and I believe that is it. So that was our first round of video notes on the science introduction and a little bit on the scientific method. All right, and I will talk to you guys later.